Optimizers Unlimited presents Episode 35, Rocky, the Untold Story, told by Bryan Orton. Cherish your visions and your dreams, as they are the children of your soul, the blueprints of your ultimate achievements. Napoleon Hill. Sylvester Stallone knew his whole life what he wanted to do: be in the movie business. Stallone liked movies because it was a chance for people to escape and be inspired. Movies showed people a way to reach their true potential of what they were capable of and overcoming unbelievable obstacles. Stallone knew his reasons for wanting to be in the movies and wasn't willing to settle for anything else. When he tried to get acting jobs, people thought he looked stupid and talked weird. There was no place for him in Hollywood or acting in general. He was repeatedly given this advice: go do something else. This clearly isn't for you. You are never going to be a movie star. You have a dopey look and your speech is mumbled. On top of that, you talk out of the side of your mouth. Stallone got no after no after no in his relentless attempts to get an acting job. He would go to agents' offices in New York and get thrown out 5 to 10 times per office for a total of 1,500 rejections. Finally, he got his first job by hanging out in the waiting room all day, through the night, and into the next morning when the agent opened the door and saw him there. His first role was being a thug that someone beat up in about 20 seconds. People are going to hate you on the screen, so getting beat up will be a good thing. The audience will like it. Stallone did about 3 movies like this with limited roles of literally being the punching bag. Meanwhile, he continued to apply for other acting roles and got one rejection after another. He was running out of money and didn't know how to pay for heat in his small apartment. This wasn't working, and Stallone knew he needed to change his approach. His wife was screaming at him every day to go get a job. Please quit it with this silly fantasy of being a movie star. Stallone adamantly rejected this advice because if he got a job, he would get comfortable and lose his drive and hunger in the process. That was unacceptable to him. Stallone had to burn all of his bridges and make this his only option. If he got a job, he would get in that rhythm and feel okay about himself and never go for his dream. So he had to go all in. His only advantage was his hunger, and he had to keep that burning white hot. His wife didn't understand this. They were broke, struggling, but the only thing he had was his dream. Stallone was always cold, and one day he decided to go to the public library in New York, not to read but to get warm. There was a book on a table that someone had left. It was stories by Edgar Allan Poe. He started reading it and got totally engrossed with the stories in Edgar Allan Poe. This got him out of himself. How could he touch other people and not have his focus be solely on himself and his problems? It made him decide to become a writer. So he started writing a bunch of screenplays, but nothing worked. One rejection or failure after another. He was down to less than $50 when he finally sold a script called Paradise Alley for $100. Stallone thought he had turned the corner and was on the way up. However, nothing else came of it and no other scripts were sold. He was so desperate that he sold his wife's jewelry to a pawn shop. That's something Stallone knew was wrong, but he didn't know what else to do. It strained his marriage. Now he had no food, no money, and no answers. One thing Stallone loved more than anything else was his dog. It stood by him and gave him unconditional love. Nonetheless, he was so broke he couldn't feed his dog. It was his lowest point to date. Not knowing what to do, he took his dog to a liquor store in an attempt to sell his dog to strangers. Stallone tried to sell his dog for $50, but no one was interested. Finally, one guy said he'd buy the dog, but negotiated it down to $25. Stallone walked away from there and cried, feeling completely miserable selling his best companion, his true friend. 2 weeks later, he was watching a fight between Muhammad Ali and a guy named Wepner, who kept getting pulverized but continued to come back and back. This inspired Stallone to write for 20 straight hours. He didn't sleep. He just kept writing until the story was finished. He was shaking at the end of it in excitement because he knew in his heart this is what he wanted and why he wanted it. This script was the real deal. Next, Stallone went out to agents to sell his script. Agents would read it and say things like, "It's predictable, it's stupid, this is sappy," etc. Stallone kept notes of these interactions by writing down all the things these agents said. He kept going to agents and no one would buy the Rocky script. He's broke and starving. Finally, he ran into a group that loved the script, believed in it, and wanted to make it happen. They offered him $125,000 for the script. Wow, he was so excited. Stallone said he would have the deal with one agreement: I have to star in the movie. They told Stallone he was a writer, not an actor. Stallone insisted that he was an actor. That is my story and I'm Rocky. I got to play it and be the starring role. They said there is no way we are going to pay you $125,000 to be the main actor in this movie. You are a no-name and we aren't going to throw our money away on you. We need to have a real star play this critical role. We actually want Ryan O'Neal to play this role. Stallone flat out rejected this idea and insisted he play the lead role. They said take it or leave it. So Stallone walked out of the room with no money and an empty stomach, but most importantly, kept his dream alive with unrelenting determination. The group called him a few weeks later and they set up another meeting. This time they offered him $250,000 for the script, with him not to play the leading role. Stallone turned down $250,000 despite his desperate conditions. They came back with a final offer of $325,000 for the rights to the movie script if he agreed not to play Rocky. Stallone rejected this since it wasn't part of his dream. Eventually, they compromised by paying him $35,000 and points in the movie. They wanted Stallone to take the risk with them for such a crazy idea. They didn't think Stallone playing the leading role would work, but at least they weren't blowing a lot of money on this adventure. Stallone did not party or celebrate after striking the deal. The first thing Sylvester Stallone did after getting the money was to go back to the liquor store. He waited for the man who bought his dog. He stood outside the store day after day because he wanted to buy back his dog. Finally, he saw the man and the dog on the third day. He asked the man if he remembered him. It had been about a month and a half ago. "Yeah, I remember you. I love the dog. Great dog." Stallone told him he had been so broke and he had been starving. "The dog is my best friend. I'm sure you love him too, but I need him back. I beg you, please give me the dog back. You paid $25 for him. I'll give you $100 to get him back." The man said, "Absolutely not. No way. This is my dog now. You can't buy him back." Stallone then offered him $500 for the dog. The guy said, "Absolutely no way. $1,000 for my dog." The guy said, "No amount of money on this earth is going to get your dog back to you." Eventually, Stallone got the dog back for $15,000 and the man got to play a small role in the Rocky movie. Stallone's dog ended up in the movie too. The dog, Buttkiss, was Stallone's real dog. Rocky was made with a minimal Hollywood budget at the time of $1 million. It grossed $200 million in the 1970s. In 1977, Sylvester Stallone was nominated for Best Actor. The original Rocky movie won 3 Academy Awards to include Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Film Editing. The notes Stallone had written down about all the things agents said about him were read aloud the night Rocky and Sylvester Stallone won the Oscars. Despite the obstacles and the doubters, Stallone was right all along. He did belong in the movie industry, and he was in fact a star. All your dreams can come true if you have the courage to pursue them. Walt Disney. Thank you for watching this video. At the end of this, we have some outtakes and some clips and interviews from Stallone in the 1970s, and I think you might find that interesting, so stick around for that. But first, remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thank you.
Wrote about his determination not to sell the movie he wrote for himself called Rocky unless he could star in it. Please welcome the writer and the star of Rocky, Sylvester Stallone. So wonderful in that movie.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Really an incredible movie because it starts out so simply and it's gentle. And this gentle soul who turns out to be a killer. I mean, not really a killer.
Well, not really.
A kind of a dedicated.
Well, he's fighting for his, the spirit of man, which has been denied him all his life. It goes with, I think anyone in the audience can identify with. We all have a potential, I think, and when that potential isn't realized, whether you're an actor, comedian, dancer, and no one gives you a chance, then you feel, well, I've been a totally wasted life, and usually you become deviant. He goes into somewhat semi-crime. Other people end up on a psychiatrist's couch, hostile, divorcing, whatnot, when our potential isn't realized. And
that's interesting because you felt very strongly, I mean, that's your story more than it is Rocky's.
Right.
You felt that your potential wasn't being realized. He wrote this property. They weren't coming to you, breaking your door down with every script in town, I understand, and you decided, well, I'm going to write one that's me.
Right, right.
And then when they wouldn't let you star, they offered you a lot of money for other stars, didn't they?
Oh, they offered, well, I got in excess of like $250,000, and I had about $103 in the bank, but...
And your wife was pregnant?
And my wife was pregnant, and my dog was eating furniture, and it was really, it was desperate times. So I asked my wife if, I said, if you don't mind taking a long shot, like just ended up in the backyard grazing or something, because we don't have any money left, I'll go ahead and see if we can tangle with the power structure a little bit.
And you did?
Well, yeah, you have nothing to lose when you have nothing to lose.
I have never trained for a fight, but I'm going to work on it. He ate 24 eggs a day, and he ran 19 miles, as much as 19 miles to train for that movie, every day. Not 19 miles altogether, 19 miles a day.
He ate 24 eggs around 19 miles?
Yes.
Isn't that a long way to run just to get rid of 24 eggs?
No, but I mean, that would certainly handle the cholesterol.
He's
running
in great
19.
shape.
Yes. Well, you worked, I mean, he really put himself
Well,
in
that's
bruising.
the thing. If you're going to play a fighter, it's not. You really have to live it. Or I think the audience now is so discerning and so attuned to what's happening. You can't cheat them on film anymore.
No.
You can't just like the older fight films when the actors only had like a week to prepare. They couldn't train, so we just learned. And for about
a lot of guys who played fighters did not know how to use their hands. John Garfield in Body and Soul did not. William Holden in Golden Boy did not. But the one guy who knew, he played a picture called Winner Take All. James Cagney. He knew how to throw punches and hold his hands.
He just naturally knew how to move, period. Yeah. But the interesting thing is that he did all of these things on screen that the fighters have to do in that fight at the end, which you choreographed, it says on the credits there, was incredibly real, and I don't think you had a double in that very much, did you?
No, we couldn't afford a double. We couldn't even afford lunch. So
it was a very low budget.
Did you get money for this? Now I'm confused. I thought that you turned down $250,000.
Right. You have to understand that
you turned it all down and invested your own money.
No, just to work for minimum. Like we have a minimum actor wage, minimum screenwriting.
No, Joey doesn't understand the basic thing. He wrote this script.
Yes.
And every studio said yes, or 2 or 3 studios said yes, I would like to buy it, but I have a star in mind that I want. He said no, I wrote this for me, and if you'll take me, I will work for scale. So he trained himself, and he held out until Chartoff and Winkler said yes, we're going to go on that basis, and they wouldn't consider anybody else, and let him star in his own film, which he had written for himself, instead of taking some of the big name stars who would have trained. And
they're still taking quite a chance. I mean, in their minds, right?
Well, sure. But their budget was very low because you went even under the budget that had been.
Oh yeah, we came in about $10 under.
$10 under.
Went out and bought a house.
Well,
Didn't use any rosin, right?
Yeah.
Save $10.
oh, sure. What was the reaction when you first told the studio that they couldn't have that wonderful script for all that money unless they used you in it?
Well, I pulled up to the studio in a '63 Olds that had it was painted rust. You know, nature had painted
Right away,
it.
you're in trouble.
Right away, they thought I was there to do the windows and empty the trash. And when I asked for the money, they thought it was a joke. They thought it was a one-liner, like I was just in there auditioning to do Woody Allen movies. And the more I stuck to it, I think the more worried they became. Then they said, "Well, what the hell? Let's show a little pioneer spirit." And it went up to Arthur Krim at the top of UA, then all the way back down again. They said, "Okay, let them go. We'll give you $1 million if you go over. That's too bad." And the producers put up the mortgage, their homes, their cars, the locks, the bagels, everything was out. You know, they just put it all on the line. And luckily, John Avildsen brought in what I think is going to go down as truly an extraordinary piece of work, since it took 28 days, and I think it takes longer to hatch an egg or something.
Sure. 20 hatch an egg, yes.
Yeah, really.
And you ate 24. I can't get over that. I watched that.
Well, I walk strange from now on. Yes, I do. I find myself sitting on a lot of beach balls, you know.
But they didn't hatch, right?
Right.
No. You talked about John Avildsen just now, and he's a fine director. But now with the writer and the star there on the screen, didn't that put an unusual amount of pressure on him?
Oh, yeah, it really did. The odd thing is there was one picture taken. I wish I had it now. It's the 15th round, bloody and gored, and nose is hanging in my ear. And then he said, "Listen, could you rewrite the love scene for next Thursday?" So they stick a giant big pen in my glove, and it's claw shot. And this is what the whole thing was maneuvered like that. So it was, I think that's what brought the movie to actual fruition. It just came to a head because everyone had nothing to lose. All the actors in it, there are no names really.
The gym scenes that you had were so authentic. Were you a boxer before? Had you worked out?
No, I just always had an overly aggressive mouth.
Oh, and that didn't take you into gyms or out of them.
No, but it sure kept me in supply of fisticuffs and backyard pugilism and all that.
But this drab, noisy place.
It's the noisiest place. If you've never been in a gym, it's a whole other world, right, Joe? You go into a trance. It's the bags and the pounding, and that's just what I always felt was missing from other fight films. So we incorporated that. And there was one scene. Rocky Marciano's manager, at times, when Rocky would say, "Listen, I'm a little tired," but haul off and hit him right in the jaw. Bang. You treat him like a young caveman. And I said, "Let's do that in the movie. That'll look great." So he's tying a string between my feet, so I carry my body just so, and I say, "Okay, Burgess, during this point, you just haul off and smack me right here. Don't miss, on the chin, okay, because you're really fragile." Hauls off, hits the earlobe, right? All this, I don't know, potatoes come out, whatever comes out of your ear.
Oh, yeah.
Then he hauls off, hits me in the nose. Third take, he's knocking me out. I'm playing the fighter, and Burgess,
Yeah, he's not very tall.
I'm a 5'10" blood clot by now. I said, "All right, times. I tell you what, we'll do the red shoes. I mean, forget it."
Yeah.
So we decided not to go with Burgess's punch to the ear for the sake of my health.
Yeah.
Really. So I said, "What do I do? Just disconnect the phone, nail the door shut, and get a job as a zookeeper?" I didn't know what to do. But she says, "You will be a writer." Now, up in this time, I had made it. I was a real success at not being able to spell my name hardly. I was a terrible writer. Terrible. When they would say diagram a sentence, I had no idea. I thought it was filthy when diagrams. What do they mean, you know? I'm serious. So what happened? I went to see Easy Rider, and I was really down and out. And I said, well, here's a movie that made $35 million, and since I'm doing nothing for the next 6 years, why don't I just go out and invest in a pad and pencil? If nothing else, maybe I can pick, doodle.
Okay, Sylvester Stallone.
When I brought the script to them, they were fairly enthusiastic about it. The one thing they were not enthusiastic about was me playing the part, and I really can't blame them at the time. But there was something inside of me that this opportunity is never going to come around, and I really wasn't used to money, and I had no idea of what I would be missing. But I know in the back of my mind, if I sell this script and it does very, very well, I'm going to jump off a building if I'm not in it. So this is one of those things where you just roll the dice and you fly by the proverbial seat of your pants. Say, all right, I got to try it. I got to just do it. I may be totally wrong, and I'm going to be taking a lot of people down with me, but I just believe in it.
Idea of doing this film was just to try to put into perspective, like, whatever, everyone has a dream, everyone has a slight dilemma in their life, will they ever gonna make it? And then you get to a point where I may not make it to a certain level, but I can set my own goals. I may not be the best in the world, but at least I can rise to a level that I can be confident and calm with and proud of myself. And so I think that's what the film was about. You may not be the best in the world, but you can be the best in your own life. It's all about dreams, you know, and by the way, dreams cost nothing, they're free. The hard part is just keeping them going, and please keep them going, because we're here for one simple reason. He believed in the dream, I believed in the dream, and our dreams come true, and there's no reason every one of yours can't either.